But if you're somebody who really struggles to bring the intensity, who gets nervous about competing, gets nervous when the camera turns on for whatever reason, that is all the more reason to treat the open very seriously. Treat those workouts as the opportunities, whether you classify them as a tune-up or a legitimate, like this is a playoff game sort of thing. You have to be willing to get into the mindset of like, this is kind of a do or die scenario. And if you can't do that once per week for 3 weeks, or maybe twice if you're doing that retest, what makes you think you're going to be able to do that 4 times over the course of a weekend and qualify for semifinals?
Your open will set the tone for your quarterfinals.
Absolutely.
I guarantee it.
Yeah. One heating pad on either hand.
All right, you're going to need 2 heating pads.
2 heating pads,
piece of ham,
an extension cord, and some pepper jack.
And then you bring the cheese.
We need a tub of ice cubes and a pitching wedge.
It's more like a bechamel, really.
I think that's a great intro.
It is. Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning in to another episode of the Misfit Podcast. Full goon squad in the house as we record this.
What's up?
It is week 5
Chia.
of phase 4. As you are listening to this, it is primer week 6. We're going to get into that in a second, but we got some real serious shit going on here.
Real serious?
Timmy Touchdown has officially retired, and I just want to make sure Sherb is
I've
okay.
already seen it like 800 times and been told.
Yeah, but he
Sad.
didn't retire, then he did, then he didn't, then he did.
I know. Sad.
You all
Very
right?
sad.
Was
No,
that,
very
was
sad.
that him, or was that just like weird media reports that just got ahead of him?
It got leaked.
Yeah, it got
he
leaked,
wanted to
basically.
announce it, and it got leaked.
Yeah, someone stole his thunder, and then he was just like, "Nah, fuck y'all. I'm still here." And then everyone
Watch
looked stupid
this.
for like a day, and then he retired after all. So
Ooh, hold on. My goal for 2022 is for Sherb to own cryptocurrency at the end, and Brady has retired to go into cryptocurrency.
I mean, that and apparel. Those are his like 2 games now.
I wonder
Brady brand.
which one is going to make him more money.
One of you
I wonder which one I'm gonna participate in.
spend 100. You spend 100% of your disposable income on one of those 2 things. So I'd say your odds are pretty not bad.
Pretty not bad.
Pretty not
Care to guess
bad.
which one I'm gonna do?
Number 1,
Who's the crypto app
Tom
right
Brady thing that can be translated into advice for CrossFitters.
Fuck, it ain't over till it's over. I mean, I'm thinking back to the Super Bowl party we had
now? That
for
was quick.
the Atlanta Falcons when I was having literally the worst time ever, and the other people in the room who just fucking hate the Patriots are having
Everyone's
the
on the
best time.
9s and Fran, and you're on 21.
Everyone's having so much fun, and I'm just fucking so miserable, and the game turned around and ended up going in our favor. But to me, that's just a good lesson for anybody going into the idea of, hey, it's never over until fucking buzzer's done, the AMRAP's over, the last round is finished. So to see that adversity come in probably the hardest situation ever. I mean, I don't think any certain football fan thought that game was even going to be competitive towards the end, and then to turn around with it's like 2 or 3 minutes left in the third quarter, down 28-3. That's not likely. So it's a good lesson there for other people to think that like the story's
So
written.
you go to the CrossFit games and they ask you to swim 14 miles and then they start the CrossFit games.
Yeah, it's just not over there. And I think a lot of athletes respond negatively when their first event doesn't go well, or their, let's say the first open workout doesn't go the way you want it to be. That doesn't mean your open's over. It means you have to recalibrate and figure out like what is the best strategy moving forward. So I think that's a great way to kind of start off the idea of like what Tom could teach us in other things. Other than that, I think there's
You only
plenty
get one.
of. Oh, okay, I'll shut the fuck up then.
Hunter.
I was worried you were going to ask me about this.
Who's Tom
actually,
Brady?
I'd say we can all probably learn a lot from the things that he was doing outside of off the field. I think everybody knows that the fact that his dessert for however 30 years or whatever is like a
Avocado
strawberry,
paste.
a strawberry and avocado paste out of a tube, and like a tablespoon, whatever,
Toothpaste he squirts.
whatever it was. But I think there's no. It's pretty obvious that the connection between his habits off the field translated to how long he was able to be so successful on the field. So, that might seem more of like a shot to our masters community that like, hey, with the correct training volume, correct nutritional habits, sleep, all those sorts of things, you can perform at a high level, but that applies to everybody regardless of
it's a
how
matter of
old you are.
time before they release a
Sure.
book about that whole situation. People get to learn a little bit more about his body work and how he treated himself. And while you might not agree with, you don't eat protein from non-plant-based sources, like there are things that are going to be very informative moving forward.
He's loosened his stance on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I think that was a little hardline stance at first. I mean, he obviously shooting a Subway commercial about bread now where he's like, what the hell's bread? But I do think there's a decent amount of that information that'll get kind of translated down to other sports because, again, it's insane that someone that old was that good at that sport in that position, even though, a lot of his job is...
How many games did he miss due to injury?
He realistically only had one season where he missed because he got his ACL blown out in the second quarter of the first game of the season.
Okay,
but
so
outside of that,
impact injury, nothing, not necessarily.
I mean, he lived on the IR list, or not the IR list, but the injury report list every single week.
Before he started working with Guerrero, he couldn't throw a football most of the week because his arm hurt so bad.
Yeah,
and that's what started the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's one nod to though, like traditional strength and conditioning community versus how CrossFit athletes treat their bodies, which is, I think, more in line with Brady than it is with that. Like the idea that his arm hurt that bad after every single practice and no one went in and did body work on an arm that's worth, I don't know, $1 billion or something, is crazy to me. And the guy was like, yeah, no, he just took the right attitude of someone going in and being like, I was actually talking to someone about this the other day. Like if you were a young trainer, you walk into Bill Belichick's locker room and Brady's in there and Randy Moss, all these people, are you going to be the one to speak up and be like, I can fix that? Like who has the gall to like go in and say something like that? And he basically did. And just did body. I mean, his massage techniques are crazy. And I feel like you'd have to be, I don't even know.
Well, it's kind of like the Tim Grover thing with Jordan. He literally reached out to the Bulls and were like, I'll help anybody who wants my help. And the only person that took him up on it was Michael Jordan and was able to play at a high level. So, so he played pretty good.
Ted, do you have like a bomb notification?
Blow your minds.
He was pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. But it's weird to think that a professional athlete outside of most sports isn't totally in tune with how their body actually works and don't go out of their way to find people to do that. Like you look at someone like, remember James Harrison talked about getting body work done and how much time he spent with people outside of football. I think he said he spent like $1.5 million a year to make sure he could perform at the highest level. He was the first one to say it that started that trend. Like back when he said it, it was like $300K, which is worth like $5 now. Yeah.
But LeBron's the one that said he spends $1 million a year on body work.
But I mean, it makes sense. Wouldn't you want to invest that much money if it's going to allow you to perform at your highest and be your best? And what can you learn from that?
All you got to do is turn on one of the Lakers games and they put his stats when he was in his early 20s, his late 20s, and then now he's, how old is he now? 38. LeBron? 38, 39? Yeah, his numbers are exactly the same. He scores almost the exact same amount of points per game, assists, and rebounds. And he's been doing it. Yeah, it's crazy. So it's like, who are we going to learn from?
Maybe pay attention to that. Maybe.
I think Brady might be the greatest example set by any professional athlete ever. Because there was Jordan was the one pre-Brady, like the only one where you could truly say like, this dude is the actual GOAT.
Kelly Slater's up there.
And he's kind of we're talking about sports right now, Hunter. Calm down.
Community immediately enraged.
You go back and watch some of the opening event of the season that's happening right now at Pipeline in Hawaii, and it is absolutely throttling people out there. It's fucking nuts.
But with Jordan, there was the whole at what cost? Because he's mean to people and wants to take your lunch money if you don't have any, that sort of thing. Whereas Brady, I think the example for me is his combination of ability and humility together is totally unprecedented. The idea that someone as good as him and as dedicated as him could walk into a locker room where there's the whole Belichick wouldn't look any of them in the eye in the hallway, that sort of weird shit. The fact that he bought into that entire system and was just it's your show kind of a deal. Stuff like that doesn't happen with athletes of that caliber.
Two things there too. Brady didn't go into the league thinking he was going to be, he thought he was going to be the best, but no one else did. That's the reason why he got picked 199th. Unlike Jordan, who oh, we probably shouldn't have drafted Sam Bowie instead of Michael Jordan. Like there's that argument there, but obviously at a very high caliber going into the next stage, the pros, whereas Brady wasn't. But one of the things I really liked reading recently is he's been posting like, congratulations on retiring, and looking back at some of the old teammate posts. And one of them was like the Stephen Ridley, who played running back for the Pats in like the early 2010s.
I thought his position was
Stephen Ridley. I don't know.
It wasn't Stephen, and I think he was a fumbler, not a running back.
True. I can confirm and deny that. But it was interesting. He said, thank you for all your leadership there, been teaching me the way. And I love the fact that you showed up every single day to your job as if you were about to lose it. And I think that's a great lesson for people to take home. If you're someone who's trying to be the best in anything, you have to attack each day like it might be the last time you do it.
Especially at that level. Like, we all played sports with people that were really fucking good, and our version of really good is all state in Maine or playing, Division III sports and stuff like that. And most of them were pricks and didn't want to do this, didn't want to do that. Like that combination is the type of thing that separates someone with the exact same genetic abilities as Justin Medeiros and Tia Claire Toomey. They're not even qualifying for semifinals.
I mean,
and they don't even know it.
Yeah. I mean, Frazier talked about that too. He's every single event. He's like throwing up before events. He's just like, I'm going to lose. Like I'm not going to win. Or if I don't train, I'm not going to win. There's not that the arrogance of like, oh, like everybody else needs to come up to my level. It's like, no,
right.
everybody's coming up to my level and I need to stay ahead.
When you see that even in our sport, I remember years and years ago at the regionals background, there were certain athletes who thought they were of a certain caliber and wanted to carry themselves a certain way. And there's the guy from Vermont who just kind of hung out in the back area and just kind of did his thing and
packing a lip,
eating Snickers, like just kind of focused on what he needed to do and was able to take a leap ahead. And it's clear that humility is a huge part of why he was able to finally make the leap from, all right, I'm going to get into this thing, make a little bit of money. I'm going to try to win this thing. And now I'm going to try to win every single year. And you have no chance of catching me, because there's always that element of, hey, I don't think I can do it again. So let's go prove to myself that I can. And that the proving it to yourself thing, I think, is probably the biggest lesson from both the Matt Frazier in our sport and Tom in his sport is they were never satisfied. And that was like the big closeout on his like goodbye speech. He's like, I made this commitment for so long.
Did you play Sarah McLachlan music and cry when you read it?
I was crying. It's okay. I'll admit it. Why do you think I didn't come into work when I was reading that? But I think there's a lot there that, says, hey, if you're humble and you have humility as you train or as you do anything, you're going to be constantly pursuing better, as opposed to being like, yeah, I'm great. Good. Let's move on to something else. It was nice to see him go out on his own terms and say that, like, I've decided now I don't want to put that energy into this thing and I'm going to go on to the next chapter. Kind of like when Kobe decided he wasn't going to play basketball anymore. And he's like, you think that I'm sad about that. There's some part of me that misses it, but like my life's not fucking over. I'm like 38 years old. I have a shitload of left to give in other regards. So, he got into coaching. Who knows what Tom will get into next, but apparently it's crypto and Brady brand apparel.
Sure. Just buy some fucking crypto. It's on sale right now.
It's been on sale for like 2 weeks.
It's been on sale.
It's going
All I can think was like
the sales
you guys
going
seen
away.
that commercial with the crypto where a guy's like, I'm a millionaire. And he's like, nah, I'm not a millionaire. And he goes back and forth like 3 times. That's going to be me, but it's only going to be once. Well, I'm a millionaire. Oh, wait, I don't have any money anymore.
I'm poor.
All right. So perfect segue. Oh, well, let's see. Do you have ability and humility? Are you ready for this? Do you have humility when it comes to the grip test?
Yeah, I got humility, but you guys got to go first.
I don't. You guys suck. I'm going to crush you.
You guys, the reigning champion.
Me?
Yeah. That 5x5.
What if Hunter slips and today's my day?
It's possible, but I'll definitely use the fact that we haven't done this.
No. 144. Yeah, no.
You have to kind of try.
139 would be a
hands are
really
looking kind
bad
of slippery.
day.
I think
I'm glad you went with that.
Day off yesterday was like probably, I don't know, probably didn't help you very much. Ow.
151.
Wow, that's not good.
So much humility over there.
Sometimes. Wow, that didn't even feel great. 164 too.
That thing's dumb.
All right, I'm not sure what just happened there. We had a technical difficulty. Technical difficulties.
244 is what I got.
Bad connection.
I'm going
All right, so
tunnel.
It is week 6 of phase 4. Perfect segue into our topic of the day because it is primer week. And a lot of people ask us, where is the deload week? Why don't we deload? We've talked about this before. We believe that athletes should, especially during the off season, decide when they need to deload, decide when they need to go in and lower volume, potentially lower weights, that sort of thing. That's a bit of a separate topic, but what we do to ensure that there is not too much volume and that we don't get into the idea that volume is impressive is we do a primer week before retest week. And the idea is to go in and relearn over and over and over throughout the year how to focus on individual pieces. So when we go into primer week and there's less stuff, some people who are obsessed with volume will think about it from the standpoint of like, I'm going to get worse this week, that sort of thing. What we're hoping is you see that piece, whether it's a bitch work piece, whether it's an interval, whether it's a Metcon, and you say to yourself, I'm going to really stop and think about the strategy in this workout. I'm going to find some training partners to race. I'm going to do a nice long warm up. I'm going to make sure that I cool down so I can really understand what it's like to go into the next day and actually feel good. So primer week, while it looks like a deload, you'll notice from a lot of the Metcons that it's not a deload specifically, but going into that and relearning how to do that is important in the grand scheme of things, but way more important right now because it's almost time to really get back into it and get after it.
Once the open starts, and maybe more specifically for quarterfinals, you get served up 4 workouts to do in a day. You're not saying okay, I need to conserve energy and do each of these at 70 or 80%, right? That's not how you get from quarterfinals to semifinals. And one of the notes, we'll get to it kind of once we get into the meat of the topic here though, is if you're somebody who struggles to do that, if you are, whether you call yourself a volume monster or it's just hey, I'm great at hovering in that 80% effort range, that doesn't cut it. And the open, especially now that it matters, it is easier to move on to the next stage of competition after the open. That provides you with the perfect opportunity to, under real kind of game time situations, put yourself out there and really, really go hard. Because if you're conserving that because you're either not very good at putting the energy forth when it's actually time, when kind of the lights go on, or you know that you need to practice that, there's three weeks before quarterfinals that provide you with that opportunity. So and then the primer week is kind of the off-season version of that. So if you're not very good at it, we give you that opportunity pretty much once a phase to really go in there, dedicate time and energy to going as hard as you can in a training piece, in the hopes that when the open and then quarterfinals rolls around, that translates to a higher seeding on the leaderboard.
Yeah, and the idea that there's a lot of athletes that will go to, whether it's Wadapalooza level competition, semifinals, local comp, whatever it is, and there are some people that want more volume. They want 3 pieces a day for 3 days, whatever it is, 4 pieces a day, because they know that as other people start to fall apart, because they can lean on their training, that's where they're going to get their chance to shine. The idea of leaving that up to the programmers is not a great look, and it also completely screws you for qualifier season. So whether, again, you're trying to qualify for some, we'll call it off-brand competition, or an actual CrossFit Games season competition, you're not going to get the opportunity to be well, people are starting to fall apart now. You need to be able to go in and absolutely annihilate a single workout.
That might be the case. Maybe they are falling apart, but it can't be because you gave 70% effort in the first 2 events and you're just I'm still fresher than everybody else. No, motherfucker, you got to go as hard as you can and hope that the fitness that you've accumulated will still put you out ahead of everybody else.
I also think that's a bad lesson just in general in life, that to give something that's external like that power that you should have had for yourself. Going into a training season or going to a competition like that, you should pride yourself in being able to do what you can do on the floor. And I don't mean like I'm running my own race, but like leaving it all out there and not having the, giving your 80% that you give day in and day out in training. And why would you want to give a competition or give something like that up the chance where you can't control that type of thing? So to me, that's a mindset that's going to put you away from being closer to your goals, and instead is giving you an excuse to why you didn't perform your best, or like the movements weren't fair, or this movement didn't come up in the open this year and that's why I did as poor as I did. To me, is giving something away to other people that you don't want to give that away. You want to keep that, and you want to be able to practice what we're talking about here throughout the season. So when these competitions come up, you are ready for that because you've practiced it multiple times throughout the season. Primer week, the open for some of our semifinalists are essentially the preseason, a chance to practice these goals or these habits, so that when they go to the season, that part of the year that does actually matter, it doesn't feel completely foreign, because we see it happen every year. Where as soon as there's like a judge and a clock on and a video camera, I can't do this
as they
anymore.
say in the industry, don't bury the lead. Let's get into the topic, and a lot of the things you're saying, I think we'll circle right back. Today's podcast topic is 5 ways to crush the open. Little bit of an asterisk there. We are talking about the open and quarterfinals. It's going to take us a while to figure out what that means for people. I think it's going to take CrossFit a while to figure out how to market that properly. It's just odd. Even just, we have quarterfinals prep camp coming up. Doesn't roll off the tongue or get people as excited as open prep camp, even though that's essentially what it is going into that. Number 1 on this list is finding your volume sweet spot. Now, in the past, we've been very open and aggressive about, if you stop training during these times, you are going to do worse, flat out. Now, the issue, I think, with that statement from us is not covering the correct ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about today is action items for finding out, okay, you don't want me to not train? How much do I train then? And when you're navigating a program, whether it's MFT, Hatchet, Teens, Masters, whatever it is, when you're navigating a program this time of year, there's even more nuance to what you personally should be doing. It's going to be highly individualized. So what we're trying to find is that sweet spot between I'm scared of training and having that ruin what I'm doing, and then this concept of how we spend our entire off season trying to overreach. And, we're basically, you don't ever during the off season want to be hammered all the way into the ground that you can't, you're all the way buried. You're the bride from Kill Bill. You're down in the coffin and you're having to punch your way out. But like, you're intentionally jumping into whatever, a 2-3 foot hole regularly so that you can continue to get better and better and better. That is not the name of the game when you are coming up close to what is your most important section of competition of the year. So while we don't want you to stop training, we also don't want you to overtrain, and you're going to have to find a sweet spot that works for you, that allows you to really stay on top of your game, reminding your central nervous system regularly that this is what we do, but then maybe sort of calling it there and not doing, it's, if you follow Misfit Athletics, that we have the pick, 1 through whatever, or 0 to 1, 0 to 2. Just not picking anything is probably closer to that idea when it comes to your specific most important time of the year.
Yeah, you're finding your Super Bowl, whether that's qualifying to get to quarterfinals to get there, or if you're quarterfinals, you're like, I'm trying to get to the semifinals, or if you're semifinals trying to get to the games, sort of think of like a funnel. The closer you are to your like Super Bowl, the narrower that funnel will get. So there's less wiggle room for adding unnecessary extra pieces or just doing things because your buddy to your left or right's like, hey, come jump in on this. No, I have a very specific goal set in mind, and I need to be very conscious of that because I need to train at a certain level to keep creating adaptation and to give myself the proper dose of intensity, but does not set me back from being able to perform my best when it actually matters. And, one of the things we talk with athletes often is, hey, you have to be very aware of what your Super Bowl is or what your goals are in order to properly steer your training moving forward. And this becomes like put under a magnifying glass this time of year.
I think one of the big mistakes people make is not taking stock of how you're feeling leading up into the open or quarterfinals. Because if you're somebody who's like, 2 weeks out from the open and it's just like, man, I really hope that chest to bar pull-up workout doesn't come up or something like that. That should be an immediate light bulb to you that what you did in the off season, like you might need to adjust something. And we talk about this a lot. Like you are for, within like a month or so, you're probably not making very many physical adaptations as far as like increasing your capacity in one movement or the other, actually getting stronger. There is I think there's a lot of room for, or there's still the opportunity to work on the more kind of neurological adaptations for doing skill work, whether that's, empty bar work with the Olympic lifts or working on the skill components of those high skilled gymnastics that might give you trouble. But if you are at this point in the year and you're saying to yourself, I'm really worried about this movement, and you haven't really put the time in and practiced it in the previous, 6 to 9 months, then that should be indicative to you that like either it wasn't that important to you or like you omitted that in your analysis after last year or leading up to this year. You're
just talking about a different version of intensity. Intensity doesn't always mean your heart rate's at 200. Sometimes it's being very deliberate with your practice so that you're saying, hey, I might not be able to physiologically change my body and create the surface area of my muscle mass or any of those type of things, like make myself physically different, but I can create neurological adaptations, and maybe I need to spend more time slowing down to speed back up, because there are so many athletes that get into this time of season and go, and I thought I did a good amount of chest to bar pull-ups this season, but the second you put them with X, Y, and Z, I can't do them anymore. That right there is an indication that there was something awry with your training plan leading up into the season, and you can use that to create plans for the next season. And I think too many athletes just get frustrated, and that frustration that happens directly after the open doesn't allow for the proper synthesis of the information that is gathered. And because of that, they feel like they start over instead of saying, if I just made a small adjustment here and a small adjustment there, I probably would have met my goals this season, versus like one thing went bad, throw the papers up in the air, take 2 months off, become a weightlifter, and then go back into the season next year without really having taken the time to synthesize that information in the moment where it's most appropriate to synthesize it.
Yeah, I think we're going to spend a lot of time on the ultra specifics of this topic when we record the Competition Block 1 podcast next week. But if the open is your end all be all, you need to remember the suggestions of that primer day, the day before the open workout. There is something about the first workout the day after a rest day that just really sort of kicks your body into a place that it's not quite ready to be. We are going to, in the next topic, talk about warming up, not being terrified of that. But I think making sure that you are, Sherb talked a little bit in our meeting before about visualization. There's something to going in and being active and getting yourself into the right headspace by moving and doing what you know how to do the day before, versus like if you're already going to be sort of a head case about it and you take a rest day and you're alone with your thoughts about how maybe you didn't pay attention to your chest to bar pull-ups all year or something like that, that can be an issue. So I was just using your example.
Yeah, it was an example of me though.
There.
Ipso facto, you just attacked me.
So again, find what works for you, what makes sense. You're going to know deep down, or your training partner or your friend or your coach is going to know deep down if you're, well, I'm probably just going to do nothing today because my pinky toenail, I cut it a little weird and it's rubbing up against my sock funny.
Like, it had me this morning.
You're going to know when you're acting that way, and you're also going to know through a ton of different means whether you're overtraining or not. You go in, it's super challenging to warm up, you're lethargic, you don't want to get into it. Again, you are searching for that sweet spot of, and it could be as simple as going in and saying, okay, I'm going to do lift Metcon skill or something like that, and sort of track how you feel.
Could even be like a self-sabotage, like, oh, I didn't do so good in the open because I decided to do 17 pieces yesterday, and that's why I didn't do so good. There are plenty of athletes that we've worked with in the past that, whether they do it consciously or unconsciously, allow themselves to potentially get wrapped up in things they shouldn't be focused on this time of the season. So really, really take the time to sit down and ask yourself, why am I doing this piece? And if you can't come up with a concrete answer, maybe ask a training buddy or a coach. And if they also can't find a good reason to do it, don't fucking do it. Do something else. Spend the time quietly meditating or doing a long ROM WOD or doing things that are actually going to help move the needle in your performance. And the visualization thing that I brought up early on is because so many people panic because they want to go through all of these thought processes the morning of the event, where in my opinion, it's kind of already too late. The moment they announce the workout, begin thinking about how it's going to go for you. Ask yourself, what have I done in the past that can inform my performance moving forward? And use that to help ease your mind. Because again, you might think you're the only person on earth dealing with the anxiety of about an impending open workout. And I'm here to tell you that literally everybody feels that way. Literally everyone. It's not weird. It's not unusual. It means you give a shit. That's a great thing. But now that you obviously care, what can you do about it?
All right, Misfits, just a quick break to shout out our show sponsors and hopefully save you a little bit of dough. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Sharpen the Axe, the long-awaited Miami 2022 Wadapalooza gear is dropping very, very, very soon. And guess what? You can save 10% on all of that by using the code word Keala, Keala, at sharpentheaxeco.com. Also, if you are in the Team Misfit, nope, not Team Misfit. If you're in the Misfit Athletics Discord, you might be able to get a sneak peek at that stuff before the rest of the community does. Boop.
We're also brought to you by Pure Spectrum CBD. You can head to Pure Spectrum CBD and use the code word Misfit to save on your order. Now, one of the things that we're in the throes of right now is that volume squat cycle. While I am not participating in the Misfit Athletics version of that, I am participating in the Team Misfit version, which is a heavy 5x5 every week. And one of the things that's helped me feel a little bit better is that Black Label salve. So if you want to get yourself ready for the 2022 Open and quarterfinal season, you want to help yourself recover so you can perform your best, check out their Black Label stuff because it is excellent. And again, you can use the code word Misfit to save on your order.
We are also brought to you by Proper Fuel. You can head to properfuel.co, use the code word Misfit to save on your first order. Very much like Sherb, I am in the throes of the Team Misfit back squat cycle, which is almost certainly going to put me in a grave, but not before I PR my 5-rep max. And immediately after this podcast, I'm going to slug a scoop of Proper Pre, get the old tingly boys rolling before the next 5x5, and then followed up with a good old probably 4 scooper of the proper, maybe like 10 or 12 scoops of Proper Fuel recovery. Head to properfuel.co, use the code word Misfit to save on your first order.
We are also brought to you by ourselves. The absolute best way to get updates about this podcast, to have input on this podcast, is to head to discord.gg/Misfit Athletics. You can join the community. You can let us know what you think about episodes. You can ask. You sort of get that like first dibs on Q&A episodes, all that good stuff. And if you want to support what we do with the podcast, head to misfitathletics.com or the SugarWOD marketplace for our programming, or teammisfit.com for your affiliate programming needs. All right, back to the show. Perfect.
Really give a shit and I get nervous.
Segue to number 2, deal with mental blocks before they show up. You've been acting like a nut job. All of us have been acting like a nut job for years going into this. And it's not just, did Hunter work on his chest to bar pull-ups? Is he going to do singles of bar muscle ups on camera again in front of everybody?
I'm going to chalk my hands before handstand push-ups.
Is Sherb going to chalk his hands? Am I even going to do the open workout?
You might.
I might. Depends. If it's 21.1, I can do it. So just like a movement, we have data, we have information, and then we have this entire year, and we don't want to forget what the open workout made us feel like and how we acted. Because if we ignore that up until everyone's scrambling to find a tripod and your judge is taking a piss and all of these things are happening and your heart rate somehow, you tell us you can't get it up on the C2 bike and it's past your maffetone, you're just standing still. These are issues that should not be forgotten when you could start preparing for them the night before, long before. You can start practicing right now. You can take a single workout and you're going to talk shit in the Discord Primer and say, week. Everyone's going to show up at the gym today. And this is shoot your shot, call your shot, whatever, that whole deal. Create these scenarios for yourself before. But we have a little bit of a list here in terms of what that could look like. Every single person should spend 15 minutes on a machine or walking or jogging
Sweat check.
I'd be too tired.
before they even do the primer. So not only can we not get certain games level athletes to do a primer because they'll have to do a single chin over bar pull up and they'll die and fly away into heaven.
Had some gluten?
You tried that.
You tried, Dan.
We're saying that's not even the beginning of this situation. You have to go in and let your body know what's going on. Hey, coach, why can't I get my heart rate up in the Maffetone work? You didn't do your damn warm up. I know you people aren't doing your warm up. Now, if you're a monster on the C2 bike, I'll give it to you. That's fine. We can deal with it. Do your damn warm up. Like, it's hard for me to get to 160 minus my age at the beginning of the warm up. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm fine once the session starts. And rant. We'll get back to what we're getting after here. So you're thinking about, I know what my warm up is going to be and everything's going to be fine. And if the guys give me a warm up and I don't like it, I can slightly tweak it and get the same result in terms of an actual primer. And guess what? We say rest 5 minutes. Go fucking crazy and rest 6, 7, 8.
Get wild.
Get wild. But the idea of going into an open workout when you're already nervous, when heart rate at the beginning is already going to be a problem, when your, iPad's got no battery and all this shit, the idea that you are not going to go physically prepared into this when you know mentally it's going to be a challenge is an issue. You know this now. You're talking yourself off the ledge the night before, not right before. The night before, what would happen to me if I went in and slowly biked for 15 minutes and then did like a 1 minute AMRAP? Oh my God, the world's going to end. We just talked about how much you all love volume and how you'll do 9,000 pieces a day. And now we can't warm up. So we're thinking about these issues prior to the open actually starting.
Can I inject one thing there, Drew?
Sure.
Ahead of time. I think the
Ahead of time.
Before you get any further.
Grab some water. You're dehydrated. Getting fired up.
Wrong, getting fired up. The visualization thing's a great point. I definitely agree with the warm up. One thing I would say too, kind of in the middle between those two things, is don't change your status quo. Don't stay up to midnight if you go to bed at 9 p.m. every single time. Don't change the way you eat if you eat a certain way every single day when you train. I think that a lot of athletes throw themselves into a different headspace because they change something about it, because there's like, oh, this big scary competition, and all of a sudden they decide they don't want to eat the same amount of things, or they decide they aren't going to spend the extra 90 minutes before bed like mobilizing or whatever they normally do. So to help prepare your body to get ready to do this, stick to your routine. And if you have certain things that make you feel good and help you prepare for the following day of training, this is just like that. Just ratchet it a little bit more up when you get to the gym. But leading up to it, your behaviors should be almost identical to day in and day out, assuming you are doing the correct things and that you aren't someone who just goes, all right, I'll throw my shoes on and start training. I'm just saying, I want you to get in there, get the same amount of sleep that you always get, eat the same way you've been doing. If you journal at night, do those things.
Go to bed at 4 p.m. and drink a gallon of beet juice.
Secret recipe. But again, don't throw yourself for a loop because you try to change too many things at once leading up to something like this, because it is something new or something you don't normally do day in and day out.
Yeah, that new thing is the stressor. You don't need to add additional stressors to that one stressor.
Truth. All right. If you are taking the open seriously, if you're taking quarterfinals seriously, you need to know who is judging you, how they judge, how they interact with you. Don't you dare count my double unders. I'll kill your family. Like there are people that just have these very strict rules about how they want to be communicated with by their judge. Like, ooh, that sucked. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a way that certain people want to be talked to in that moment. So judge, what time do you need to be there? What do I need from you? Eye contact. Is it okay? Is it not?
Eye contact.
Media team is not your judge. It is also not your husband if you can't figure out how much space is left on his iPad. Okay. You need someone
judge me, don't worry.
that you trust. Ted's judging Sherb in the open.
Sounds good to me. I like it. Odds just increase.
You need to trust them. You need to have multiple sources. Obviously, if you're training with somebody else, you can both sort of point your cameras at that 45-degree angle that they propose in most of them. But these are things that have to be taken care of. Honestly, a week before,
yeah,
like like you really need to know these things, and you need to charge your damn phone, and you need to, you know, make yourself a little checklist. Like my phone needs to have memory and battery and be off airplane mode.
Do I need?
And
how many gigabytes do I need?
Like, am I willing to chance my entire season on whether the kettlebell is going to hold it up on the ground? Or should I go on Amazon and spend $199 on a tripod or the attachment for your phone, that sort of thing. So thinking these things through prior to going is super helpful.
One thing on the judging situation, I think you've talked about it before, but like at HQ, when we're doing more so quarterfinals workouts, like there is a difference between a judge and a coach. The judge is not your coach and your coach is not your judge. Your coach should be there to observe and provide, like, you know, in real time feedback if it's appropriate, or, you know, is making notes for a potential retest or something like that. Your judge is there to enforce the standard and count reps. Don't ask that person to try to do both for you. It's not going to, it won't benefit either of you. And the other thing with that is, do not let or ask your significant other, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, to do that for you. It is I have never in my entire life doing CrossFit, the 10 years I've been doing it, see that go well.
Some people get sassy.
It's not objective. It's not, you're not objective. You're not in the right frame of mind. You're hurting each other. You're not willing to give a no rep to your partner. That no rep costs them, 20 seconds when a major penalty happens and they don't qualify. Obviously that's an extreme example, but like there's almost no circumstance that I would recommend your significant other or close friend, relative, something.
I don't
like
think that should be that person shouldn't be any of the three team members.
Any of the party.
I was just saying, those people typically care for you. They're going to make a mistake on accident, but not because they did it on, like, they were trying to sabotage your workout, but they might like reset your jump rope or push a button on the rower they're not supposed to push, and all of a sudden your awesome performance gets completely negated by the fact that someone tried to do something they thought was helpful, but is completely against the rules. So again, you need to make sure that these people are fully invested and understand exactly what you do and how you're going to do it. So there's nothing left to guess. I mean, they're not going to know the workout ahead of time. So that's going to be tough to be like, you got to make sure you judge me on the wall balls this way, but you need to make sure that those people are very well invested and understand the ins and outs of how these competitions go. Finding someone and be like, hey, are you free for 10 minutes is not the right play.
This next one is sort of a different spin on topic number 5 that we'll get to a little bit later. But if there is a movement that you know has given you issues very specifically in qualifiers, the night before, that visualization is so important.
Do 1,000 of them the day before.
Sherb failed 10.
I knew this was coming.
10 double unders
17 times.
At least 10 times in a video we were trying to shoot the other day. I've seen Sherb do 100 double unders in a row many times.
One time.
many
if
single
double unders come up in the open, Sherb should spend his time the night before thinking about like how calm can he be as he walks up and grabs the rope? Is he going to over grip it? Is he going to try to go fast even though it's a large set? That sort of thing. Getting yourself into that mindset when you know, like, I know how to do this. This is what I do. This is what I've been doing for who knows how long, upwards of a decade for a lot of the people that listen to this podcast. So going into it and just realizing that it is still that same thing that you've been working on the whole time, and taking the time to visualize and almost laugh it off a little bit, I think is part of the mindset of like, I'm just doing the same thing that I do.
You want to take it serious and not so serious at the same time, because again, you don't want to create this outside pressure. I mean, you're already feeling the pressure of the workout and trying to do your best so you can try to go to the next stage, but don't add additional pressure that's not necessary.
There's not a lot of willpower attached to a double under. No. Like there are movements where you're stepping up to that clean and jerk and it's like, I need to bring some different level of energy to this. When it comes to something like a double under, or if you can never get your footwork right in a burpee box jump over or something like that, those are the types of things where we need the opposite. We need to tone things down a little bit. If you are the type of person that can't handle racing somebody else in a workout when you're about to go race the rest of the world in a workout, start
news.
practicing now.
You got bad news, Hunter?
And honestly, try to find a workout that you're not great at, and go find someone that you are 100% positive is going to beat you, and get excited about the fact that you get to chase somebody.
I would say within reason, you get somebody who's going to annihilate you. That might be more detrimental. The kind of law of accommodation or what is it?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Gold jacket, green jacket.
Gold jacket, green jacket. Who gives a shit? You need to find someone that is slightly beyond your current capacity, but is within reach.
You don't want someone breaking the rubber band. If you want to use the running analogy, you want someone who's going to be just far enough away that you're chasing the entire time.
Sure. But the idea that your ego is too fragile to go into a workout and race somebody is an issue that we've seen in the past with athletes, and it shows up during these times of year. So when you're, sort of have that magnifying glass on you, make sure that you've already put yourself into that scenario. I should say we've also seen athletes make major progress on this, and you can see the benefits of it. Like putting the positive side out there, you can see the benefits of it once they figure out that, like, they win every single workout every single day. Finally, that time that someone comes to visit, that starts putting them in the grave a little bit, you can tell that that's like a gift. Like, ooh, I haven't found this gear in a while.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing. Number 5, one of you two, I believe.
Yeah, I think this just goes back to my original, like, kind of at the beginning, talking about the open doesn't matter mindset. And now I'm referring specifically to the 3 open workouts. But if you're somebody who really struggles to bring the intensity, who gets nervous about competing, gets nervous when the camera turns on for whatever reason, that is all the more reason to treat the open very seriously. Treat those workouts as the opportunities, whether you classify them as a tune-up or a legitimate, like, this is a playoff game sort of thing. You have to be willing to get into the mindset of, like, this is kind of a do or die scenario. And if you can't do that once per week for 3 weeks, or maybe twice if you're doing that retest, what makes you think you're going to be able to do that 4 times over the course of a weekend and qualify for semifinals?
Your open will set the tone for your quarterfinals.
Absolutely.
I guarantee it.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously there are folks, if you're competing regularly, you're feeding that competition bug, what that feeling feels like, then the open is maybe a little bit more of, hey, we're ironing out things like the logistics of setting up cameras and getting comfortable with that whole routine, getting comfortable with the game day routine. But if you're somebody who doesn't, and their only competition is, online, the open and quarterfinals, but you have bigger aspirations, like, one, that's another topic for another time, which is getting, competing in the off season that we've talked about. But, like, you got three great opportunities in the open to really, like, get a feel for what that's supposed to be like, because quarterfinals it's not going to be easier. That's for sure.
All right. Number 3 is understanding the difference between your strategy and tricks that are posted on Instagram, YouTube, podcast, etc. We are not immune from this at Misfit Athletics. The clicks and the eyeballs and all that stuff, that's what pays the bills. That's what makes it possible for us to do what we do. We just, as a group of 3 guys, have not been able to bring ourselves to a place where we try to pitch a gimmick on a podcast, right? So I don't want to make it seem like we're sitting in some holier than thou position. We are trying to get the clicks, but we're also trying to give you, the information that we think that you need. So understanding that if you go around and we know that a lot of people do this, if you go around and watch 5 or 6 different podcasts about the open or about a quarterfinals workout, what a lot of people want is this blueprint. It makes them feel safe. It makes them feel like this person is an expert. They know what they're talking about. The problem with this is every athlete that I've ever worked with is vastly different than every other athlete that I've ever worked with. And the idea that we are going to go into it and say, we're only doing sets of 3, we always crack the jokes about where do your change weight go? Like if it smells like something that has nothing to do with your fitness, it's a gimmick. It's a trick. It's the type of thing, again, where they just want to get the most eyeballs on what they're doing. And, we'll stay committed to not doing that for as long as possible. But even us, we are going to, maybe it's the headline specifically, like we're putting together a reel for the weekend. We are going to think of the best way to get your attention. And then again, we are going to try to deliver you the absolute best information that we can, but everyone is an individual. And one of the things that we're going to do at Quarterfinals Prep Camp is create one of these workouts where it is very much a merry-go-round. So what are the actual variables there? We're going to have different whiteboards set up that people have to line up behind in terms of their strategy. They're going to walk up and be like, okay, I'm in this camp. There's only going to be a few different ways to attack a workout like that. There aren't going to be many, right? But there is still that individualized level. If we're saying it's whatever, 19 chest to bar around, and everyone has to do these unbroken to get a good score, and that's not a good idea for you, like,
what do you do?
Yeah. How good is that advice?
You shouldn't be doing that. So what we know is a fact, and we are going to say it during every single open podcast, and during every single quarterfinals podcast, is that the majority of these workouts are about minimizing the amount of time that you stand around. And that is such a shift from the bitch work pieces that you've done all year, the threshold pieces that you've done all year, where you're going in and you are not only trying to get the best score possible, but you are actually like hammering individual movements while you're doing them, being super dynamic, pushing the end ranges of what's possible for you. The problem with that is what happens afterwards. You have 5 calories left on the rower, and all you can think is, I got to keep holding 1,500, as opposed to during the open, I got 5 calories left. How am I going to unstrap my feet and step in between my jump rope and start jumping immediately? Those are two very different things. But because you are battling every person, and every person, there's going to be people out there that you're not or that you are much fitter than, but this workout is just so wheelhouse for them. They love these movements. There's going to be a ton of them in every single workout, right? So it's the time of year where you are being really sort of smooth about your movements and really trying to keep your mind at ease, knowing that you might be a few seconds behind, but you could start that next movement before the next person, or before the person that's currently, going a little bit faster than you. And if you do that enough times over the course of the workout, you can win by a considerable amount. So
yeah, open workouts are not we ask one of the most common questions in like affiliate class after you finish a workout, you put a score on the board. It's like, did you do it unbroken? It's like, sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes it's no, but like, cool, man. Yeah, the leaderboard reflects how you broke up your sets of chest to bar pull-ups. Like, it doesn't,
1,000 in a row.
So treating open workouts as challenges to go unbroken, or to pick out specific movements or specific components of the workout to crush at the expense of the others. It's obviously not what the test is. That's not how you succeed in those kind of workouts. So
you wrote an article about this, but trying to turn your training sessions, more of your workouts, into like that cardio feel. Like you're going to be given different stimuli and workouts. Like a lot of the open workouts typically lean towards muscular overload or gas. Every once in a while we get a cardio workout, but a lot of times it's leaning towards one of those, and allowing yourself to be okay with breaking things up to keep that feel somewhat cardio-esque, as opposed to like just sprinted and did 33 of those chest to bar pull-ups in a row, and I'm going to go stand and look at the thruster bar I have to do 27 of for about 3 minutes before I pick it up. It's just not the way to do this. And the thing that I want athletes to understand, that the fastest way to do one movement is probably not the fastest way to do the entire workout. And being able to separate those things, that like, yes, if I were trying to do 21 thrusters as fast as possible, I'm going to yank that bar down. I'm going to throw it as hard as I can off my shoulders when I stand up. That might not be the best strategy if you have to go and do something super gassy right after that, and you just cooked yourself by going through a middle set of thrusters that probably aren't going to totally influence how you finally finish the workout. Knowing when to stomp the gas and when to pull the brakes back, because it's going to help you be overall faster across the whole workout, is the reason why you do so many different training pieces, is to figure out how these movements play off one another, how they affect you metabolically, how they affect your muscles. And now the time is, all right, let's synthesize all that information. Let's put it together so we know that if they throw us 45 chest to bar pull-ups, that maybe the best strategy for me is 9, 9, 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, or something like that. Like that's going to give you the best way to get through something like that. It's not even close to the math. But the idea here is doing one single movement the fastest you can is probably the bad strategy for an overall best performance.
It's hard, and it's hard too, especially if it's like, that workout, if it's the first movement, exactly, that whatever year it was 33 down to whatever thrusters and chest to bar. Like, it's a hard pill to swallow when it's like, fuck, I need to seriously break up the first set of movements if I have any consideration for the long-term impacts. And by long-term, I mean over the next 15 to 20 minutes, whatever it is. You wrote it on the whiteboard the other day, and I kept it up because there was a workout where it was like the difference between scores was, maybe 10 reps, something like that. Movements that are kind of slow and just like
one
just
speed,
slogging through them at one speed. The time's kind of, you can't really make up a lot of ground, but slow motion is better than no motion. So if you find yourself in that scenario, you have to be willing to slow down and maybe feel like you look stupid just going incredibly slow, but knowing that the fact that you're moving is still better than somebody who looks really great while they do their movement and then stands around with their hands on their knees for 10 seconds.
That's really cool, getting the best score. No, it's not really cool.
Yeah.
Flaming out in the first minute of the 8-minute AMRAP.
To summarize, it's just strategy is your strategy.
Highly independent, yeah.
Highly independent. Number 4.
Hold on, I got one more thing on that one.
Are you
I wrote it on there.
I know you wrote it on there, but I don't think it applies, and I think it'll apply later.
All right, fine. Go for it.
It's not your workout strategy to do something before the workout. Where are you talking about number 5? Okay, number 4 is something that I don't know if I've written about this before. I actually think this might have been amusing at one point, but something internally I refer to as the Worthy Adversary. And that is based on sort of the theoretical idea of what a flow state is, that best workout of your life, best, like, I don't know what it was, how did I get here? And what they found is the intersection of when your skill, this thing that you've been working on, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're way more skilled than you think. If you're listening to this podcast, there's a really good chance you work on this stuff day in and day out, and you bring a very high level of skill compared to, sort of your cohort of competitors. So we have high skill and then we have high challenge. And when those two things come together, that's when this happens. Hopefully the skill part, we've already talked you into continuing to move the way that you normally would move, and you've already done the work, right? So you have to essentially create the scenario where you truly believe that this workout itself in a bubble is a worthy adversary. It is difficult, right? Because let's say it is something unknown or something that you think is boring. Sometimes this is even an issue when this is a wheelhouse workout for someone. They go through the motions a little bit. So you have to create a scenario where, okay, well, if it's wheelhouse, then man, you should be able to make this hurt more than anybody else in the entire world. If this is, sort of odd movements, this idea of making it up, to the top of the mountain of this thing that's unknown, you're going to slog through it and you're going to be tough even when there's, curveballs thrown your way, that sort of thing. You have to create a scenario in your head that you truly believe going into a workout where, this is going to be really fucking rough. This is going to be, I can make this one of the most difficult workouts I've ever done. And when we can create that narrative with what you've worked on all year, that's where you can end up with asking the most out of yourself and actually getting it.
Yeah, what I would say to someone in an affiliate class, if they were coming up to me with a workout, whether it's day in and day out or the open workout, is it's not supposed to be easy. The workouts by design are not supposed to be easy. And if you can set your mind at ease and just accept the fact that like you're going to be challenged with something and use all the time that you've spent over the last year cultivating that skill level, you're going to best prepare yourself to do your best. If you go into it with it's just the open mindset and you don't, like, I'll get through this and I'll start caring again when it gets to quarterfinals, like you're missing an opportunity here. So accept the fact that it's not supposed to be easy and then immediately take the mindset shift of what can I control to make this my best performance. That to me is a huge unburdening of the mind if you accept the fact that it's supposed to be hard.
If you think it doesn't matter, it won't.
Exactly. You have to care. And
there could be a lot of different reasons, a lot of different things that could push you into that headspace. You talk about things like self-sabotage, you talk about things like, I don't necessarily like this movement, so I'm going to talk it off as like, I don't know who programs for CrossFit anymore, but they suck. They don't know what they're doing, that sort of thing. It's a lot of different coping mechanisms to create a narrative that won't allow you to get into flow state. So this probably goes back a little bit to dealing with the mental blocks before the workout's announced. I don't give a fuck what this is. It's on. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's max vertical leap.
Oh shit.
Or if it's row 90K.
Yeah.
Now, man, 90K? You in, Hunter?
Hold on.
Let's do it.
All right. Last but not least, remember your training. Oh my goodness. You guys do some crazy shit during the open.
Yeah.
We've referenced some of it already. You start a new diet. You stop training. You basically change everything that you've done.
That's normal though. You're fine.
And then there's the concept of adrenaline's a hell of a drug. But if we go to like video game thinking, gas tank gets 10 of those little nitro boosts. If you use 10 of them in round one,
sick.
It's not only you wasted the damn things, but you made the rest of the workout harder than it would have been had you had no nitro.
Yeah.
It's a 5-round workout. You get 2 NOS, Paul Walker style, each round, that kind of thing. Or you save it and you stomp on the gas pedal.
End, yeah.
You do get that heightened level, but we're talking about you are asking yourself to consistently go 1 to 5% harder for 20 minutes straight, not watch hold my beer. Told you I was going to send it.
Yeah. I'll show you some.
That sort of thinking is going to screw you over. Again, it's just that little bit more. It's, coach, I really think I can hold 1250 on the rower every round. What do you normally hold? 600. Like, or it's someone being smart and it's like, no, I normally hold in this style of workout an 1150 and I just think I can dig a little bit deeper today and, put myself into that mindset. So we see people completely change the way that they move, like, breaking the rig with their chest to bar pull-ups.
So many personal attacks,
dude. There are a lot of people that do that.
To see you succeed.
Yeah,
that's all it is. He wants to see you succeed.
Strategy for I'm supposed to stand like 6.5 feet away from the wall ball target and project the wall ball at and do singles on the wall ball.
That's a really good point. That brings the strategy thing full circle.
Yeah.
If it seems silly and it's not the way anyone's done the movement ever, or if it's cheating, also probably not great. Like,
I think another point to kind of tack onto this is like, now that we talk a lot about the difference between training and testing, and in training we're trying to specifically attack weaknesses. We're trying to attack them so that we either desensitize ourselves to how difficult they are, or simply just train them to get better at them so they are no longer a weakness. But when it comes time for the open, like if you've done that by nature, there is still going to be something that is not at the level of something else. Like that's the whole name of CrossFit. As something goes up, that means something else, not necessarily decreased, but something else has room to catch up to that. And we're continuously balancing those. When it comes to the open and quarterfinals, it's about what is the best strategy for me and how can I maximize the things that I'm good at? How can I maximize my strengths to get the best score possible? It's not, man, I'm really not very good at chest to bar pull-ups. I better try to attack these and do 33, do them unbroken, and then see what happens. It's like, that's a training mindset, and we need to shift that. And I think, honestly, the time to do that is now for a lot of athletes. If you kind of take that I'm always training right up until the open workout, and you haven't experienced what it's like to, okay, how am I going to game this training piece to get the best score possible? If you don't have that practice and that kind of like how that works for you, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do it when the open and quarterfinals comes around, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, getting the best score you can. It's about using, if you've still got weaknesses, like, okay, like we'll worry about those later. How can I take the things that I'm good at, maximize those while, limiting the amount of negative effect my weaknesses have on this workout?
And if you don't feel like you have that information, this is just another PSA for Athlete IQ and taking time to synthesize the information you get from your training. You do so many pieces throughout the year. You've done 10 trillion wall walks, 4,000 million double unders. Like, you've done all these things to the umpteenth degree. You now need to be able to go back and look at what you've done and figure out how you can use that information to inform how you should execute on these pieces. So if you're not someone that currently does that, this is, again, another call to action. Start doing that, because that's going to best prepare you when something like this comes up, because you can go back and read, not just my time was 12 minutes and 13 seconds. It was, I did it this way. I broke up this round. I had this pace on the rower. All that information is how you get to be able to perform your best on game day and not have that anxiety of like, what happens if I hold a 1400? Well, if you went back in your notes and you looked at the last time you had a workout that is of relatively the same time domain and stimulus, you could figure out, was that a good strategy? Was that a poor strategy? And adjust accordingly.
Truth. Yeah, it really is a massive mindset shift. So we're saying right now, I'm almost going to completely flip 0.5, but we're saying, remember your training. What that means is more, screwing up the movements that you're doing, that sort of thing. But when it comes to, I've never held 800 watts for very long on an assault bike or something like that, we need to figure out a way to ask you to try to go there during training. And magically, let's say this year there's an assault bike in the open.
Come on.
No, he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Better at it.
Those little middle ranges.
Yeah, he's pretty fit.
Yeah, no, we need. If you're not hitting Ted and Sherb with your forehead,
my bad.
it's not an accurate representation.
Hurt your neck.
But you've never done that. We as programmers need to put you in a scenario where you go there. That is not what you do in an open workout, right? Yeah. You go into the open workout and you say, I have held this. This is what I hold. This is what I'm going to hold, and I'm going to stay relaxed. And when there's a few calories left, I'm going to be thinking about, I'm going to go pick up that wall ball immediately. You went way too hard and you're going to take, 30 seconds to pick up your wall ball. I'm going to take 3 seconds to pick up my wall ball, and congratulations for beating me off the bike. Doesn't matter anymore, and it's only going to get worse as we go through that. So remembering your training is a lot more, well, I guess it does.
No, it is. It's remembering your training means use the data that you've collected to make
stuff
the most
you've actually done.
Actually things that you've actually done or very confidently believe that you're capable of doing. You use that information to inform the strategy that you're going to use in the workout.
Oh yeah.
The PSA at the end, I think that's so important, is we're talking through each one of these topics from the throne, the coach's throne that's up here. When we jump off the throne and onto the stall mats, we act the exact same way that you guys do. We go too hard in that first round. We're pretty sure our max set is tripled. It doesn't matter what it is.
A huge baby about doing the open workout.
Doing a warm up, being like, I know we said this, but I don't train as often, so I'm going to do curls instead of bar muscle ups in my primer.
Hell yeah.
That's how you do
a
singles
PBR
and
too.
bar muscle ups at the end.
Everyone does this. Some people internalize it and you don't know that it's going on. Other people act like a psycho during the open. So I just think it's important to say that one of the reasons we know this is because we watch it happen with the best athletes in the world. And we also know personally what it feels like. This podcast is therapy for us and the people that are listening about, like, just go and do what you do. You already know how to do this. This is your specialty. No one else on the entire fucking planet has ever worked harder on something than a CrossFitter, including fucking Tom Brady. He's in Costa Rica surfing and stuff. Hunter wouldn't do that. He's just doing wall walks instead.
That's true, unfortunately. Soon.
So final thoughts.
Have fun with it. I think the preseason mentality for all athletes sometimes helps or heighten the I'm going to have fun here because it doesn't really matter. But, you can have something be very serious and also have a lot of fun with it. And I think that's going to be the thing that helps set you up for the rest of your season. If you're already hating the open and you think you're going to go compete at the CrossFit Games, like, that's rough. That's not a good path to be on. So try to find ways to make it fun and engaging, whether that's working out with one of your best friends or doing something you've never done before, but trying to find the highlights in what you do each week, as opposed to dwelling on the things that you didn't do all that well, and use that momentum to carry you into quarterfinals and semifinals.
Mine is just it kind of relates to what you just said, but it's just do what you normally do. If the open workout or quarterfinals workout it's not going to be anything so much more outrageous than anything we've asked you to do over the last year, right? Pretty much everybody always says that. It's like oh yeah, I've done, and there's the element of an added intensity is what makes those workouts so much more difficult. But if it were Wednesday and that workout was, 3 Metcon, 4 time, 5 rounds of this, it would be like, okay, like, here's my Metcon. So while we're giving you so many of these things to think about, there's also an element of just kind of like, hey, let it go. Just relax. You've put in all the work. You've done what you needed to prepare. Or not. Everything that you've done is a result of your own effort and your own dedication to how well you're going to do. So, and however well you do is a reflection of that work. So try not to sweat it that much, and just and recognize that it's a workout. Just do it.
Kind of distilling the information.
Damn. Nike, I like it. All right. We got to set a baseline. You have to know what the sort of cutoff date is for you to start acting a little crazy about this stuff. And we need to have that conversation
now.
Yesterday. Do I have a time machine? Take me back to December. We need to know, you need to know as an athlete, is it the day before the open workout? Is it when you have to sign up? Is it a week before? Is it, right before you start to do the workout? When do these issues start to arise? And you set a baseline by having that conversation with the reasonable version of yourself about how you're going to start to handle all of these different things that are happening. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it does come down to what you said, and just in terms of continue to do what you do. But it's an exciting time of year because I think you can ask a little bit more of yourself. And I think the mindset of like, it's just another day at the gym might give you an opportunity to know how to like let some of that adrenaline come out more in a slow drip than like all at once.
Word.
Is that it?
That's it. I think we did it.
Did it.
All right, ladies and gents, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. And thank you to our show sponsors, properfuel.co. Use the code word MISFIT to save on your very first order. PureSpectrumCBD.com. Use the code word MISFIT to save on all orders. SharpenTheAxeCo.com. Use the code word Keala, Keala, to save 10%. And we donate 10% to the Keala Foundation. And as always, the best way to support us and this podcast is to head to MisfitAthletics.com, the SugarWOD Marketplace, or TeamMisfit.com for your affiliate programming needs. As always, I am at Misfit Coach on Discord. Chia. Slide into those DMs, talk in the community, talk in your channel of your program, all that good stuff. Let us know what you thought about the episode, what you would like to hear next. We'll see you next week.